please welcome UN Climate Action High-Level Champion, COP27, Dr. Mahmoud Mohieldin.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I'll take a few minutes of your time to share with you some concerns, but many solutions, some challenges, but many opportunities. Let me start by what the Secretary General of the United Nations shared with us from the United in Science report, emphasizing that the humanity is heading to the uncharted territory of destruction. He mentioned that a few days ago. He mentioned today in his speech at the General Assembly of the United Nations. With all of the problems we have today, there is a great deal of a deficit in trust, and there is a surplus in crises around the world, including the climate crisis. We are here today to provide solutions and scale up finance. And despite a disruptive backdrop that has even increased the price tag used to define extreme poverty by 13%, we still need really the hope to push it further in order to achieve sustainability as outlined in the Paris Agreement and in the SDGs. That backdrop is a painful reminder of why we need a truly holistic approach, one that manages a just, equitable, and practical way forward for fiscal, social, and environmental sustainability. Because sustainability is not only climate action, and climate action is not only mitigation, and mitigation is not only about decarbonization. This reductionist approach that had been adopted for many years is a misleading formula for failure. Not only are adaptation, loss and damage, and finance part of the same equation as outlined in the Paris Agreement, but we need to put that all within the Sustainable Goals framework. After all, climate action is SDG 13. We will not achieve much if we are progressing in climate action and sacrificing more people trapped of poverty or unemployment, or more women and girls to be deprived for their opportunities to thrive and survive. So the solutions that I understand from the many discussions that we have been having, from the non-state actor side that I represent and coordinate with my good friend Nigel Topping here, and the state side that was just presented by the president of COP27, is focusing on the following: a holistic approach to climate. And this means taking all of the elements of climate action together: mitigation, adaptation, loss and file, that I'm afraid to say has been lost in endless discussion, with devastating impact on many people in many communities. Not just in Africa. We don't need really to forget what's happening as we speak to our sisters and brothers in Pakistan. And I'm putting the women and girls first because they happen to suffer more with every disaster take place. So what we're trying to do here is to provide solutions through that holistic approach. Is that feasible? Yes. Is that going to be requiring funding? Yes, more funding than what we have today. And it's not going to be just about the 100 billion that we have never seen in full since their announcement back in 2009 in Copenhagen. And even if we fulfill the 100 billion, it is no more than the 3% of the gap that is required for climate action. I just wonder why developing economies and emerging markets get lectured every now and then, while some of the advanced economies didn't fulfill even 10% of what they promised back in Copenhagen. Only 6 to 7 countries from the advanced economies of the 23 countries had managed to do that. Many countries of the advanced economies didn't do that. Fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, as climate champions who are under strict rules of not naming and shaming. But a good report from the UK, from ODI, you can just Google it, and you can see the heat map on who delivered and who didn't. Right, okay. It's customary now for any meeting, before I talk to any delegation, I test first their commitment, their track record. So yesterday in a meeting with the Secretary of State of Germany, she promised that they are going to be committing more of funds to the Green Climate Fund and to all climate-related activities. I told her, I believe you, not because I know you personally, because you have a track record. You managed to fulfill not just 100%, but more than 100% during the last 3 years. It's a good guidance of others to follow. Well, you would wonder who should really follow that, but I will not share that, Google that. Or perhaps through the Bloomberg network, you can really get more updates on this. Anyways, so holistic approach, focusing on implementation, action, action, action. Our people around the world, not just in the developing economies of Africa and beyond, are desperate for investments and finance, for opportunities that we have been seeing. As mentioned again by the Secretary General, when we get our act together, there are solutions and there are opportunities and there are jobs created. When we see that in the solar projects in Morocco, in Egypt, in Senegal, all of these projects are creating more jobs than the alternative, and we need to encourage that more. I've been taking unprecedented initiative to take climate action to the regions with the presidency of the COP, the champions, the GFANs. During the last few weeks, we were very busy trying to answer a question raised by my good friend, the Special Envoy of the UN, Mr. Mark Carney, about, well, we have the money, we have the 130 trillion, we need to have pipeline of projects. He put other lists of prerequisites and requirements for investors. But actually, we're very busy, not to complain that we don't have a pipeline of projects, but we knocked on every door possible through the regional economic commissions. Now we have examples, just examples of 70 projects on adaptation and mitigation, ready for engagement, under verification now as we speak with leading investment banks and consultancy firms. And this will be the first item of the agenda of the GFANs when we meet with the chapter of GFANs on Africa. This is a kind of a practical solution. We're not just stopping at the bad behavior and the mishaps and irregularities and the deficits, but we are here to provide solutions and bridging the gaps. It's very much important to focus on investments because so far, 60% of the finance going to climate from all sources to all countries, more than 60% are in debt-based instruments. We need to see more private equity and definitely more concessional finance. And I'm very happy that the managing director of the IMF will be speaking shortly, is emphasizing while the IMF is a lending institution, but for every dollar that is going to be coming from the newly established Resilience and Sustainability Trust Fund is going to be opening doors to private sector through leveraging mechanism. So that will be for crowding in, not crowding out, and to enhance the role of the private sector through public-private collaboration. And we have many other aspects of work. I was very happy. I think the Secretary General of the UN is the first political leader to mention swap mechanisms in his speech yesterday. But we're working hard on debt reduction mechanism, including swaps. And there are many good opportunities on that front, linking them to investments in climate and nature and using KPIs, not just project-based. That will open the way for more opportunities. We're working hard as well with many leaders in the field to establish carbon credit markets. We appreciate the leadership of many advanced economies, including in Europe, but my colleagues, including Bugulu, the Director for Africa, my good friend Nigel and others, have been convening many meetings in order to put the new standards more suitable for the needs of developing economies and emerging markets to make them part of this new world of finance. We need to align our budgets as well. All of what I said now will not really fly high unless the budget of the state is fully aligned with sustainability, including all of the aspects related to the SDGs and definitely on climate action. One final matter is related to the investments in ESG. I was asked, and I'm delivering, on behalf of many ministers of finance and many of their advisors and many of the non-state actors, keen to see ESG investment better for them in availing opportunities for finance. We have heard and read about greenwashing, and we need really to fix that, and we need to have the standards, and I'm happy that the Secretary General of the UN commissioned Minister McKenna to produce a report on the standards, procedures, and code, and we look forward to the outcomes of this report. But that will not be enough. The other aspect is that many Africans and many developing economies officials call today green exclusion. By that, there is high costs of obtaining finance through ESG because you need to have more time for verification and more costs as well of getting the transaction done. That needs really to be fixed as well through competition, better standards, and disclosure and transparency. So the list is long: holistic approach, implementation, regionalization, localization of actions, and finance. I can say finance 7 times because these are the 7 approaches and proposals that we have, but this definitely will bore you. So just imagine that you heard finance 7 times because every aspect that we are working on requires this kind of funding going forward. Having said that, as an Egyptian, as a proud African and an Arab belonging to the Mediterranean, and above all, a citizen of this world, I look forward to your participation in Sharm el-Sheikh. There are a lot of ideas, suggestions, solutions. None of them will happen without your partnership and without your support and building your excellent achievement and the track record of those who managed to keep it on the right side. Thank you so much.